There's no question it was a disappointing season for Georgia's receivers in 2024. For every big play, there was a big drop. But Matt DeBerry, your view of the world here is that these receivers in 25 are deeper. Why don't you tell me more about that? I think they're more explosive, but go from there.
Yeah, I was thinking the other day, when could we see some of the freshman receivers that we've been hearing about? And as talented as they are, you go down the list and they're going to have to pass several guys on the depth chart, Ryan. I mean, Zachariah Branch, they got through the portal. That guy's going to play. That guy should probably start. Noah Thomas, same deal. They brought him in to play and start. Colby Young, he's going to play. He played some last year. There's a role for him. Dylan Bell's the seasoned veteran. So that's 4 guys right there. London Humphreys is back. He made plays last year. That's 5. Sokovie White is hoping to get some playing time soon. That's 6. Cole Spear has been around for 20 years now, it feels like. He's still around. And then Jeremy Bell is a walk-on that's really turning heads. So that's my Kennesaw State math. That's 7, 8 guys right there who have had strong springs, right? And then you talk about the talented freshmen. Talon Taylor's a 5-star for a reason. He's really good. C.J. Wiley had that one-handed snag during G-Day. That guy brings size, big playability. He's a state champion out of Milton. You go down the list, and I don't want to overdo it. Maybe I am a little bit. Dean says they're explosive and talented. I 100% agree, but this is a really deep group, Ryan.
Yeah, they have way more options than they did a year ago. And they relied on Dylan Bell, Arian Smith, and Dominic Lovett for the most part. They really didn't stray away from that too much. Even later on in the year, Nitro Tuggle, who just hit the transfer portal, only played a little bit. London Humphreys was kind of in and out of the lineup. He didn't see consistent time. They stuck with that older group, and they just have more options now. Now, heading into the season, you thought they were going to have more options with Ra Thomas and Colby Young. So that changed things when both of them were off the team for non-football things. But this time, I mean, when you think, hey, do they have a big go up and go get it guy? They've got 3 of them when you count the freshman C.J. Wiley. Do they have guys that can play in the slot? You've got Sokovie White, Zachariah Branch, Dylan Bell can play in that spot. So at the very minimum, I do think it's more explosive as well, but they just have more options, and those freshmen seem to be pretty talented. I don't even think you named Landon Rolden. He seems like a real speedster. So they just have more options there. London Humphreys played really, really well at GA. Sokovie White, they were rolling with the second team for the most part, and you could argue they looked like the two best receivers Georgia had on Saturday. That you could make that argument for a handful of guys. My concern is, do they have a go-to guy? Do they have a guy where if the game breaks down, if they're in the fourth quarter at Auburn like they were in 2023, do they have a player they can rely on the way that they relied on Brock Bowers? Do they have someone who, if it's 3rd and 12, are they going to throw that out route to Lab McConkey? That's my question, but I do think they have way more options.
So a couple things. I think that person is Colby Young, to be honest with you, because he just secures the ball. 3rd and 12. I don't think that's asking too much for him, but I think the critique for me is, can James Coley get these guys to be consistent? Because they just were not consistent last year. You don't need 3rd and 12 if you're in 3rd and 2. And, that's kind of my point in all of this is this team a season ago was not consistent. They won the SEC championship, but they were not consistent. These receivers were not consistent at all last year. Losing Young hurt. Losing Ra Thomas hurt. But they were gone. They lost them. It's what it is. And there's never any telling when someone's going to do something dumb, when someone's going to have an injury, when something sidelines someone for whatever reason. These guys have got to be consistent. Their quarterback needs help from them. Carson Beck needed help from him last year and didn't get it often. So that in order for everything to work together, these receivers need a run game, which means they need the running backs and the offensive line to play well. They need Gunnar Stockton to be consistent, but more than anything, they need to receive the ball, not drop it, Matt.
Yeah, and it'll be easier if, Mike Bobo can help get them open and scheme these guys open. But even, I say that, you look last year, there were a lot of times where guys were wide open and they still dropped the ball. It's not like they dropped tough catches. Sometimes they were open, ball hit them right in the hands, hit them right in the chest, and then on the ground, right? But I think Todd Monken did a great job of scheming guys open a little more consistently. But even in 2023, Carson was throwing to wide open guys pretty much throughout the season. So if you can scheme a lot of these guys open, especially down the field, that will help open up the run game too, right? Vice versa. The run game will open up the pass game, and the opposite will have that effect as well. So, but, like Ryan said, there's a lot of guys, a lot of options. You want them all healthy. That would be ideal, but they have a chance for Gunnar Stockton to distribute the ball to the right guy. He doesn't necessarily have to force it to a Ladd McConkey or a Brock Bowers, right? So just get it to the right guy, get it to the open guy, and hope that guy secures the football and can go up the field with it quicker. So the coaching staff, there's a lot on their plate as far as pressure goes. I think there is a lot of pressure on Mike and James Coley for the receivers and the offense in general to play better. But there's also a lot on Gunnar Stockton to do the right thing, be smart with the football, and get it out to the guy where it's needed to be. Get it out to where it's best.
Yeah, when you go back to a couple of years ago, I don't remember which one of you said it, but guys were open and things were easier. And part of that is you had really good players and you had guys like Marcus Osby-Jacksaint who knew what they were doing. But it was simple. And last year, just they couldn't find simplicity everywhere. It was a roller coaster. One quarter was completely different from the next. That's more important than the players just being good because, like you're saying, Gunnar Stockton, he knows how to play quarterback, right? He might not be as talented as Carson, but they make things easier. Then there are plenty of really good wide receivers and really talented players on this offense for things to work. You got to add in the factor that Gunnar's going to use his legs, and that's going to make this offense a little bit different than it was the last couple of years because they're going to have design QB draws and they're going to run those option plays, and they're more versatile with RPOs than they could be with someone like Carson Beck. You got to look at it too. It looks like Zachariah Branch and Noah Thomas, just direct replacements, basically. They look like upgrades over Dominic Lovett and Arian Smith. So right there, you can't say that for sure until they do it. And to be honest, the production is a little underwhelming for Zachariah Branch the last 2 years in that USC offense. But at the very minimum, he's a different type of weapon. And Noah Thomas, they just bring something different to the table than they had the previous couple of years. But I think that, like a lot of other positions for Georgia, you'll see kind of a rotation. I think you'll see London Humphreys, Sokovie White get in there. Maybe you see a little bit of Jeremy Bell. I don't know if those freshmen, they've got to be exceptional, I think, to fight for playing time because Kirby doesn't want to rely on freshmen if he doesn't have to. KJ Bolden was a necessity. Nate Frazier was a necessity. So I think that's different. But the different types of weapons, too, it's very dynamic when you look at it. They've kind of got a little bit of everything.
Yeah, look, so coming into a season ago, they were deep. They were different, but they just didn't perform. And two of them weren't there by midseason. The reality is, again, if they're not consistent, then we're just on here talking for nothing. And when I say consistent, I mean the entire offense. It's really got to be a cohesive, consistent group. And if they will do that, then things will become noticeably, what Ryan said, easier. In sports, you want things as easy as possible. Now, it doesn't always work out that way, but when it is, you want to go do what the Grizzlies are doing right now, or Grizzlies, whatever the plural is to a grizzly bear. What they're doing, what Memphis is doing right now not Memphis, I misspoke. What's happening to Memphis from OKC, they're just killing them. They're just murdering them. And you want things as easy as possible as long as you can make it easy. That 22 offense was exceptional. And it was exceptional because it had Darnell, it had Brock Bowers, it had an exceptional offensive line. The quarterback should be a Hall of Famer. I guess right now he can't be for some dumb reason. Ladd McConkey, I think I already said Brock. You had Kenny McIntyre. And they had explosive players everywhere, Matt. They had explosion. Explosion equals easy. They have more explosion this season than they did last year. But that's like saying, well, Dean can run the 40 faster than he did 2 years ago. It's still not fast. So they've got to have cheap, easy plays that result in touchdowns. I thought ETN would give them that. He never did. and that hurt them. And so, can Nate Frazier? I don't think Nate Frazier can do that necessarily. Dwight Phillips could. But he's not an every single down back. So someone's got to give them easy points, Matt. And when they do that, things will become easier. But the consistency is the challenge. And if they don't get consistent play, they're going to have to fight through this season, just like they did last year. I will add this before you talk. I do think that things are slightly easier this year in terms of the way the schedule is. So the fight may still be a fight, but just not as vicious a fight. But I think it can be a lot easier if they'll just take advantage of it.
Yeah, and just use their strengths, right? I mean, I think people are tired of seeing the screens, but you need Zachariah Branch in the screen game. You want him to get that ball quick and get upfield. You want him to challenge defenses vertically as well. You've got guys who can win jump ball scenarios and be weapons in the red zone like Colby Young and Noah Thomas. Dylan Bell is versatile. I mean, he's best when he has the football, not securing it. He's great with the football. Use his talents to where they should. So if they just try to use everyone's strengths, I think it will be easy. But like you both said, everything was such a challenge last year. Nothing came easy. And if they can just take a small step forward, I think it'll be a big improvement with the offense. But if they can get the most out of their guys and use their strengths as much as possible, I do think things will be a little easier and not much of a challenge every time they throw the football.
The hard part's going to be figuring out what's easy, right? Because you get an off season where now Gunner's QB1, that's a change. You've got different guys. He's got to build chemistry with those players too, along with developing that even more with the players who've already been around. They're going to have to figure that all out. They just brought in a new running back. I don't know how big of a role he's going to play in all of this. So I do think the biggest challenge will be figuring out how can they get to that easy, who needs to be out there and how do they scheme these guys up. But they've got all the pieces for the offense to be better this season.
Yeah, what you don't want to be is what Alabama was last year. Alabama was extremely explosive, but they were not consistent in any way. I mean, these guys, it was wild. So you want the explosion. Georgia, I think, does have the if you go back and look, particularly when Gunner was playing, they were consistent offensively. They just weren't extremely explosive. It's okay to be explosive. You got to have it in today's modern college football. But I think that's the thing. Can these receivers do that? We're going to see it at the beginning of the season. Thanks for watching.